So welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Health Capital, the show where we interview health and wellness founders. Today I am here with Kate Sullivan. She is the CEO and founder of Uncracked. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. Excited for you to be here actually, because we're in my office right now in San Francisco.
Yeah. The first time I came here, I was very impressed. It's like a big warehouse. You guys can't see it. Maybe I'll film something later, but it's like a big commercial kitchen space, and there was actually a party here, which was pretty cool.
For all people in the food industry, it was really fun actually.
Yeah, if you're in the Bay Area next time, keep an eye out. All right, so Kate, why don't you just give us a little introduction, who you are, what you do, and just tell us a little about yourself.
Of course. Well, hi everyone, my name is Kate and I'm the founder of Uncracked. Uncracked is my startup. We develop clean label ingredients using seaweed. I'm a UC Berkeley alumni. I studied nutritional sciences and I've been working in the food industry since I was 15 years old in all sorts of roles. But I've been obsessed with food and nutrition for as long as I can remember.
Very cool, very cool. And what got you started on this like food and like nutrition journey?
Yeah, I think like just from a very young age, my family, I was really lucky, always, prioritized eating well and keeping ourselves healthy just to prevent having to go to the doctor, and really emphasize good nutrition and how important it was to be eating really well, just for higher quality of life. I think also selfishly, so they didn't want to pay for medical bills, but obviously it's very important.
Yeah, I think that people don't realize that making the investment now, maybe buying like healthier food is more expensive now, but you're saving yourself down the line in terms of medical bills and your own personal health.
100%, and that was definitely something I realized later on, but since I was really little, I would always go grocery shopping with my mom and my dad, and was always like really obsessed for some reason with food packaging and labels, and would always be like really curious about what the numbers on the back meant and like the different ingredients and how, like, why they were different from like different foods and like what they meant. So I'd always be asking questions.
Very cool. And I like that you have like a curiosity mindset. That's very important. And you said you went to Berkeley, right? So how did you take that curiosity and bring it with you into Berkeley?
Yeah, I think in many different ways. Initially, when I went to Berkeley, I was committed as a nutritional sciences major, but I thought I was going to go into healthcare or into medical school. And I really realized that there was a big lack of education surrounding nutrition in medical school, and I was like genuinely curious about these topics. So I, very simply inquired with my advisors and was like, I want to learn about these topics. Like, is this the right path for me? And it was emphasized that I should be switching more into dietetics, which is like a pathway to become a registered dietitian. So simply from just like changing my niche within my major, and then also having so many different like outside internships and experiences outside of like just classes.
Very cool. So you were in Berkeley, and now after that, exploring all those different options, you started this company, Uncracked. How did that begin, and what led to the creation of that idea?
Yeah, so it was actually a spin out of a project that I started at Berkeley. So like I said, since I was a very young age, have always been interested in food products, and eventually thought that I would be maybe developing products of my own. And I came across this lab at Berkeley called the Alt Meat Lab, which was started because as the plant-based industry was taking off with Impossible Foods and Beyond Foods, they wanted like a hub at Berkeley researching these types of products. However, I was always like skeptical of the vegan products and like the plant-based market, just because like one, my like a little bit of family history. My family like used to manufacture cheese and dairy and meat in the Midwest. So was always like, vegan and vegetarianism was like almost taboo in my family. And then just like from a nutritional standpoint, like a lot of these products were like very different. And so, but this was the only type of lab doing this sort of product development at Berkeley. And I was like, okay, let's like get involved and see what's actually going on here, right? Like I was skeptical, but I was still curious.
Of course.
I
like that.
Yeah, and people had started companies out of the class before, like for 5, 6, 7 years before. And I was like, wow, like if students are starting a company here, like why can't I do it? And I'm very lucky that Berkeley is a very supportive entrepreneurial hub. So I get involved with this lab and was working on my own product development of plant-based seafood products, and very quickly learned about a really big issue that was going on there, but in like the plant-based industry, but also was like a problem in food manufacturing in general, is that the ingredients that are kind of industry standard are mostly synthetic, really processed, and make really like low value products, nutritionally and health-wise. So anyway, I was continuing on that journey. We actually had a really scrappy prototype for a plant-based seafood product, and it got us like first place in this UC Berkeley entrepreneurial competition.
Congratulations.
Which was really excited. Thank you. And so with that experience kind of gave me like a head start to diving into entrepreneurship. We were accepted to Berkeley Skydeck, which I later on pursued. But the fruition of this project was accumulation of so many experiences that I've had in the food industry, both from like simply food service and seeing like how people's like dietary habits are so different across the board. And what else was I gonna say? Sorry,
that's great. Yeah. So you were at Berkeley. What were some of the ingredients that you were not like the biggest fan of when you were developing the seafood product?
The biggest one is like methyl cellulose, which is a synthetic fiber, is a byproduct of the wood chipping industry. Yeast extract, which is used as flavor modulators, starches, extruded plant-based proteins. I mean, a lot of these ingredients are pretty common in the food industry. I just like was not excited about putting out another product on the market that had these ingredients. So another experience that kind of inspired me to start this company was I was actually supposed to go to grad school to become a dietitian. I was committed, deposit paid, and everything. And I was working at HelloFresh on their food safety and quality team under a team of dietitians. A role that, like, I thought after grad school, I could see myself having, working like as a dietitian for a big company. But really saw that nutritional science, like nutrition and health, was a really low priority for big food companies. And it was really hard for the nutrition team to have any leverage and any innovation within a company. So from that experience, I decided to drop out of grad school and keep pursuing on this project, which I had started at Berkeley. But like I said, I wasn't really excited about putting out another plant-based product to the market, especially because at the time in the market, I'd kind of reached a plateau. So I decided to keep like working on product development, but I wanted cleaner ingredients. But I couldn't find them. There was no more like natural functional ingredients that could help replicate like texture and taste of plant-based meats. So then we turned to seaweed, and aka macroalgae, which originally we were using as just a flavoring agent, but then started using as a texturing agent in our products. And it was really exciting, it worked really well. So we decided to test it out in a variety of other applications. And so within that project, we pivoted a little bit and decided to go full time and work on these ingredients.
Very cool, very cool. And how would you describe the texture of seaweed in the products that you were using at the time?
At the time, we were manipulating it so it became a gel, and so it was a natural thickener, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the texture was you can't really tell because once it's integrated into products, but it's used as a viscous viscosity agent to like thicken any like liquids or like bind proteins.
Awesome. And so that discovery of seaweed as a food ingredient is what led to the creation of your company, Uncracked.
Correct.
And so for the viewers, could you describe a bit more about what your mission statement is and what you plan to accomplish with Uncracked?
Yeah, for sure. So our goal is to replace artificial and synthetic additives that are really common in food products with more natural, clean ingredients that we derive from seaweed, aka algae.
Simple.
And yeah, very simple.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that there's so many, like you were saying, food ingredients that are not good and shouldn't be in our food supply, and it's time for an alternative.
Yeah, exactly. And the demand is there. Consumers are wanting cleaner ingredients. So we're helping to be like that strategic partner for food manufacturers that are feeling the demand for consumers. They're also feeling the demand from like government and from policy to reformulate their products. But they like the same struggle that I had and a lot of food product developers have is they don't have like more natural alternatives.
Definitely. And I see this change coming too with kraut crackers, obviously. People are so happy and relieved to find a product that doesn't have any of those like synthetic additives in it. And to really finally bring something to market like that, I think is very important. I see new natural products popping up all the time. And the demand is definitely there. I think that the challenge for you might be educating people about seaweed and why it is better and why they should want your products that have the ingredients in it. So can you tell people a bit about why seaweed?
Yeah, why seaweed? Well, seaweed has actually been used in the food industry for a long time. We've seen it in extracts like carrageenan and alginates and agar. However, those undergo very, very many like layers of processing. So our ingredients are a lot more like using whole seaweeds, very limited processing, no harsh chemical or thermal processing, just getting the highest functionality for the least amount of processing. But seaweed has so many benefits, I don't even know where to start. From an environmental standpoint, it grows extremely fast. It doesn't need any inputs. It grows in fresh water. It just absorbs the nutrients from the water. No need for fertilizers. No need to take up more land space. And it actually captures carbon, and it's a carbon sink. So environmentally, it's like the perfect biomaterial. From a nutrition standpoint, seaweed is extremely rich in essential nutrients. Some species to species, it does vary, but as a generalization, contains very many essential vitamins, essential minerals, omega-3 fatty acids. Some seaweeds are even high in protein, up to 25%.
Wow.
By weight. And has a lot of like anti-inflammatory properties, can help with blood sugar control. It's just like one of the most nutrient dense superfoods there, and it's very like under recognized in the United States especially. But why we love seaweed at Uncracked, obviously those are great added bonuses from the nutritional and the environmental standpoint, but it just has extremely high value nutrients that give it like natural functionality. So like I was saying, it has these polysaccharides that are natural thickeners. They gel naturally when added with water. So just without like, they just can replace like the need for these artificial additives.
That's great. I'm super excited for you and your company. Right now, you told me that you're pre-market, so you're not actually launched yet?
We're not launched yet. Like you won't find our ingredients in any food products yet because we are still in development. We're essentially in like a data collection phase, if that makes sense. We really, really want to understand how our ingredient works. Oh, just like for some clarity, our first ingredient is an emulsifier.
Okay.
So if you don't know what an emulsifier is, if anyone's not aware, it's an ingredient that stabilizes and mixes ingredients that typically like would not mix. So like for instance, emulsifiers are used in like salad dressings to mix oil and water. Emulsifiers are used in baking to make sure that like your baked good is like super even and consistent. It's used in like protein bars to bind plant-based or animal-based proteins. Used in plant-based milks. So traditionally, these ingredients look like xanthan gum, guar gum, lecithins, things like that. So as I was saying, you won't find our ingredient on the market quite yet in other products because we are testing it in a bunch of different applications to really understand how it works. And we want to be able to have a really great solution to swap out these types of like gums and other synthetic emulsifiers very seamlessly to like the same or a very similar ratio. However, with that said, we are planning on launching our own products locally in San Francisco, which include protein bar and a superfood pudding, potentially salad dressings and baked goods down the line.
Awesome. I look forward to trying all of those. I think you're in a very like powerful position with Uncracked because if you guys position yourself correctly, you could become synonymous for a brand that endorses healthy products.
Yeah.
People see your name on the product and they're like, okay, I know that it's an Uncracked product. It's gonna have healthy ingredients. It's gonna be high in nutrients that are good for me. And you know, there's a sustainability component too, which people also care about, which is not contributing to the destruction of our planet.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why we were so keen in our values and using just high quality ingredients and not like sacrificing, sustainability for like nutrition or like functionality of products with like synthetics. So we're really proud of that. But I completely agree, like we are very like, if we continue to be very mission focused and people see that our ingredient is on a certain food label, they like can know and trust that it's going to be good for them.
Yeah, and I think what you're doing is important too because you're actually encouraging people to look at the food label, to look at the ingredients that they're consuming because what I've realized in my own food journey is that companies can put anything they want on the label and it, like for example, on the front of the package, they'll just say, oh, good for cholesterol, lowers cholesterol, heart healthy, all these claims, right? But then you look at the ingredients and you're like, I really don't want to be putting that in my body.
Exactly. There's so much nuance with food marketing because technically something can be heart healthy because of certain ingredients that it has. Like it has a little bit of fiber and it's heart healthy, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there's 1,000 other ingredients that are actually detrimental to our health. And food marketing is very unregulated. Terms like healthy, natural, clean, there's no regulation around them. Anyone could use those terms, like the ingredient natural flavors, right? That is extremely deceiving.
Yes.
Natural flavors is coming to fruition as a really ultra processed ingredient that could be made up of thousands, like literally thousands of different synthetic compounds. And so the only type of terms that are actually regulated is if you want to call something low sugar, high protein, you need like the data to back that up. But there's so many other claims that like just are used to trick consumers.
Yeah, it's definitely a movement, which you're a part of. I'm a part of too. I'm very happy to be a part of educating people and becoming more aware of what we're actually consuming, of our food system. I was reading a book. I've read a lot of books on this, but The Omnivore's Dilemma and The Secret Life of Groceries are two really good books that have opened my mind about the food industry.
Yeah.
Just in terms of what really goes on behind the scenes in some of the products that we're consuming, whether that's like factory farming for the animal products that we're consuming, or that's the ultra processing that is needed to make something like seed oils, for example.
100%. I have another book recommendation for you.
Okay.
It's called Ultra Processed People.
I've read it.
You read it?
Yes.
Amazing book.
Yes.
I'm not finished yet, but amazing book. But I think that another reason why I decided to go full force with this company and just like this mission in general of putting out cleaner products to the market is because from something that I took away from my undergraduate education, and also a reason why I did not continue to pursue nutritional sciences in a master's degree and become a dietitian, is because there is a severe lack of education surrounding how the processing of our food manipulates our metabolism and our health. I think a lot of what's focused on is macronutrients and micronutrients, right? And the numbers. The numbers is just a small part of the story. It really is the processing that goes into it that is going to affect our metabolism. I'll give a really simple example for people to be able to digest this. An apple will have very similar macronutrients, if not the same as apple juice. The only difference there is going to be fiber and maybe like if there's no other like added sugar or anything. However, an apple and an apple juice will affect our blood sugar in extremely different ways. An apple will raise it a little bit and it kind of will keep it steady because it takes your body a little bit longer to break it down because of the fiber and because of the cellulose. However, apple juice will spike our blood sugar. It'll disrupt our insulin. And as we know, like super high levels of sugar are disrupting our metabolism and leading things to this type 2 diabetes epidemic that we're experiencing. So I felt that going into nutrition in either like a healthcare setting or just an industry setting at this point was like not an accurate representation of how food is actually affecting us and affecting our health.
Yeah. I believe that what you're doing is important. I know that you're going to impact so many people with Uncracked. And I really like the point that you just made about how the processing affects our digestion, because this is something I have learned through my own journey with like fermentation and kraut crackers as well. So if you take just, for example, a cabbage, right? If you just eat cabbage, purple cabbage particularly, it's very high in magnesium. But that magnesium in just say raw cabbage is bound to something called an oxalate that's in the cabbage. Now, when you take that cabbage, you put it through a fermentation process, bacteria actually reduce the oxalate count in that cabbage by about 99%. What happens is then that magnesium is now able to be absorbed by your body a lot easier.
Yeah.
So it's a more bioavailable nutrient in the fermented form than it is in just the raw form.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
in some ways, processing can have negative effects, or it can have positive effects too. It's very nuanced.
Yeah, definitely. And processing exists in our food system and our food industry like for as long as time.
Since cooking,
right?
basically.
Like since literally cooking. I mean, you pick an apple off a tree and that's considered processing.
Yeah.
So what I really like about the Ultra Processed People book is it goes into those 4 categories of processing. And the first 3 are like all healthy for people. And then it goes into the 4th category, which is the ultra processing. That is when you're introducing compounds, chemicals, ingredients that were synthesized in a lab from compounds that did not originate in food.
Yeah. If you look at the process just to make like seed oils, for example, it's such an easy example to use because you look at the process and you're like, okay, they take the seed, you know, there's not really, like there is oil, like they have to take so many seeds to make the oil, but then like the oil that they do get, it's like in order to preserve it and keep it on the shelf, it needs to be bleached, it needs to be acid washed, it needs to be deodorized, it needs to go through all these processes just so it's palatable for consumers. And you're like, well, it's palatable, I guess, but what's the impact that that's actually having on our health? So I think what you're doing with Uncracked and the transparency, I mean, Seaweed, I assume, like, yes, you're doing some processing, but generally it's like minimally processed.
Yeah, exactly. That brings me to like ties it back to Uncracked of, you know, the carrageenans, alginates, agar, like these polysaccharides from seaweed have existed in the industrial food system for a long time. So nothing that we're getting from seaweed is extremely new, but those undergo extremely harsh processing and bleaching and chemical extraction that it's so far removed from seaweed by the end of it, and there's, you know, it's not good for health. So we're trying to work with partners, which are seaweed farms and seaweed processors that are doing very minimal, and also researchers and food scientists that are doing very minimal processing and just getting a crude biomass that also includes all those valuable nutrients that I talked about earlier that are naturally found in seaweed, instead of just getting a white powder that is from seaweed.
Yeah, that's
We're keeping it as whole format as possible.
That's
and some
great.
seaweeds we don't even do any processing to. Our emulsifier contains one type of macroalgae, and we keep it in its like natural state.
very cool, very cool. What are like the main products that you like hope to see Uncracked partner with?
I think like so many options for that.
Top three.
Top three, the biggest market that we see is bakery and confectionery.
Okay.
When you go to the store and you're looking at your breads, your baked goods, like either like your traditional, but then also includes like your gluten-free or your vegan or your like low sugar. There's so many ingredients in breads, so many. And our ingredient is like really great for emulsification in confectionery. So that would be like a great target. Also where we got started, the plant-based industry. You know, if we want to increase consumer acceptability of these products, we need better ingredients. And I mean, you know this, like that whole industry has gotten so scrutinized recently for the types of ingredients that they're using in their labels. So we want to be a strategic partner for those types of businesses. And then lastly, I think this could go either two ways. I always have loved the idea of like sauces and dressings because sneakily they'll include lots of like gums and bad ingredients to make those sauces really thick. And this is also like in food service, not just like for CPG.
Yeah.
But then also like your protein products, as you probably know, like protein bars, protein shakes, protein powders also include like so many ingredients. So
Sounds great. Have you ever considered ice cream?
that is also something we've considered 100%. That's a great one because synthetic ingredients are used to keep ice cream really stable as it's going like in and out of freezers and transport. Like it's not always stayed at a consistent temperature. And so there's like manufacturers tend to add stabilizers, lecithins, gums, whatever, to keep it all like consistent. So you don't so a consumer doesn't open their ice cream and it's like a little bit icy, a little bit chalky, you know? So that's also a great, you know, potential.
I can't wait to try Uncracked ice cream. I'm looking forward to that. So you mentioned, you know, you were working in the plant-based lab in Berkeley, and now you're in Uncracked. How has your perspective on food changed throughout your whole journey from like being younger, your parents were into nutrition, to now being actively working in the food industry?
Yeah, I think it's changed in quite a few ways. On one hand, to kind of play devil's advocate to what we were talking about, I have a better understanding of why these ingredients and why our food has undergone such processing. Not for anything good, but it makes sense from a business perspective and a values perspective, right? Like these ingredients offer stability, shelf life enhancement, like flavor enhancement, addictive properties. So from a business standpoint, it like has helped big food get to how big it is. But on the other, like complete other side of that, it's really opened my eyes to how not only these ingredients are functional, but detrimental to our health, and how we as a society need to care a lot more about what's in our food and how it's processed. And like I mentioned earlier, the biggest perspective change for me was it's not just about the macros and the micros and like the numbers on the label. It's way more about the ingredients and how our food is processed. And that's severely underemphasized in nutritional science. And another perspective change is, I think right now, I think up to this point, maybe you'll agree and have like something to add on this, but I think the health and wellness industry and in food specifically has always been about like supplementation, like get more of the good things, get more of the good things, get more of the good things, supplement of like specific vitamins, nutrients, other healthy foods. But when in reality, what's worse is the consumption of the highly processed ingredients, right? And I think, and this makes sense what I'm saying, Like it's always emphasized to get more of the good things, and that's why like supplement companies can have done so well. But what's worse than what's like good is the processing.
I think we see a lot of food products with specific health claims, and it'll say this product is fortified with vitamin D. All milk is fortified with vitamin D, vitamin A. Lots of protein drinks have all these synthetic vitamins in them, and it definitely comes from that mentality of more is better, more is better. These aren't good forms of vitamins. Your body recognizes, it doesn't recognize, your body doesn't recognize isolated molecules. It doesn't absorb those nutrients the same way. That's why those products often are hyper loaded with specific nutrients, way more than you would actually need from if you were just to say, eat an orange or eat some salad that had a variety of nutrients in it. So what these companies are doing is, yes, pushing this narrative of more is better, but in our society, we have a problem, which is people are consuming too much. We don't need more consumption. We need less consumption. And obviously, from a business standpoint, that's not good. But I think that companies like yours, like Uncracked, are really doing a lot to educate consumers about what they're putting into their bodies. And I'm just really impressed with your vision and your mission.
Thank you. I know, I think it comes down to like the bad that's in our food is worse than what the good is making up for. And it's a really controversial topic. I feel like a lot of food scientists who are kind of seasoned in the industry will, like, same thing, will be like, oh, well, a lot of these ingredients are actually like vitamins and minerals and nutrients. Okay, well, a synthetic or a isolated molecule is nowhere near the benefits of getting it like naturally in your fruits and vegetables. And when I'm a nutritional science at Berkeley, I have a lot of friends and family coming to me and be like, what are the best supplements to take? What supplements should I be taking? I'm like, don't take a single supplement. Eat fruits and vegetables. And eat them the simplest way to look at it is just eat fruits and vegetables that are a variety of colors. Because the colors are the easiest way to see that there's a variety of nutrients. Just eat a balanced diet. Like, it's really that simple, and the food industry has become so industrialized and so complex, but we're seeing this backlash, and it's gonna start moving backwards. I mean, we're seeing it on a political level as well.
Yep, we are. And this is something I learned actually in Michael Pollan's book, but the entire food science industry was born when people started figuring out how to extract ingredients from corn mostly, and corn is one of the most over-farmed crops in our country. I mean, high fructose corn syrup. There's a million lists of ultra-processed ingredients that come from corn. But the entire food science industry was actually born out of that because food science is the science of extracting and synthesizing synthetic molecules and ingredients from food.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps when you're growing a ton of corn and you can make, all different ingredients out of the sun. Yeah, it makes sense from a business perspective. But it's really bad for people. It's killing us.
Well, Kate, I'm very much looking forward to your future of Uncracked. I can't wait to try Uncracked products. I'm looking forward to your protein bar, maybe your ice cream too. I'll be a big consumer of that. And thank you. Thank you for hosting this space.
Thanks so much for coming out here. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.